continuing on the discussion of understanding the financial process, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, did we end up here? I think this was the last slide. Okay, so what we're just going to do the rest of this chapter, if you've had a chance to read it, which I hope you have, this will hopefully fill in some of the blanks. And if not, go ahead, obviously, and listen to the lecture. You're here today. And then make sure to do the reading. I will tell you, particularly with a book this pricey, I use the book. I don't ever require books that I don't really want you to dig into and use. And not just to reference it to do the homework, but like, there's a lot of really, really good information in here. So, please use your book. Okay, so this is what we were talking about as you were doing worksheet 1.1. And some of these might have shown up in your short-term, midterm, or long-term goals. What sorts of things do I want to do? Well, I want to buy a house. And for example, when we were talking about worksheet 1.1, what I'd really like to see is, in my midterm goals, I want to save $10,000 for a down payment. Like, that's concrete, right? Or I want to move to Missouri when I graduate, and that's going to cost $3,500. So really super, as much as you can dial in and get concrete goals, that's really helpful, because then we can take that and we can get it to that cash flow budget and start to see how much you realistically need to save every month using present value tables if you want to move to Missouri in 2 years. It's just math. Oh my gosh, I need to put away $222 a month to get there, right? Retirement planning, college education for kids. I'm going to try and make things as pertinent as I can to the demographics, and this is a pretty young crew. So again, we're obviously going to talk about retirement planning, but funding education for kids may or may not be at the top of your priority list, because probably taking care of your own education is where you're at right now. So this is what we just practiced, and we're going to be talking about further with our cash flow budgeting. So I think this is kind of interesting and very well done. So obviously on the x-axis is your age, and on the y-axis is your income level. And as most of us know, obviously, you're costing your parents money between the time you're 0 and 20, right? You're in a negative income. And then as you're going through school, you're probably working part-time. They say that our income peaks between about 38 and 55. That's the average peak of our income. And then, of course, just statistically, we start to decrease. We start to work less, we start to retire, health issues, a lot of splits of families where there's now you're single income after maybe being dual income for many years. So you can see the trajectory. So what you have to do during those different stages also changes, right? So for example, as you hit 20, they're identifying that you really need to start thinking about what kinds of insurance you're going to procure. And what are your asset acquisitions going to look like? And believe it or not, you're making really big choices when you even do something that might seem inconsequential, but like buying your first car, new car or new used car, right? You're establishing what kind of lifestyle, right? And it's not just the car and the cost, but you've got to insure it. And there's a status associated with it. And what does it allow you to do? Can you now travel more? Can you get back into the woods? Right? So there's a lot surrounding it other than just like buying something to get you from point A to point B. With the insurance, I was actually just talking to my last class about this. What kinds of insurance are we talking about? What's the obvious one? Health insurance, okay, right? Is that the beginning and the end of it? No, what else? Life insurance.
Renter's car.
Renter's insurance. We're going to have somebody talk to us about the incredible importance of that. Car insurance.
Disability insurance.
What's that?
Or if you get in an accident, whether it's work-related or not, if you get taken out of work, they can pay for up to 67% of your income.
There you go. Disability insurance. If you're hurt on the job, what takes care of you? Workers' comp. If you're hurt and you can't work, but it's not job related, what takes care of you? Nothing unless you have disability insurance. And it's really low cost. And it's income replacement insurance. And unless you have somebody that can backfill all your bills with a smile on his or her face while you're unable to work, it's a really important insurance to have.
So just side question on that. So if you're, say, for instance, a stay-at-home mom, or you basically don't have an income for yourself, then
It's not. It insures your income stream. So if you don't have an income stream, there's nothing to insure. Yeah. Okay. So and then as you're moving into your mid-20s, and we're going to spend a ton of time on this, obviously, savings and investment planning. What do these different savings vehicles look like? And I'm sure most of you know right now, like savings accounts themselves barely are worth a trip to the bank for the interest rate they pay. What are some other vehicles? What are some other options or instruments I can use? Employee benefit planning. We just talked about this in the last class as well. I hear so many students say, I had my first job offer out of school, and I've got a health insurance plan. And it's like, awesome. So what portion of the premiums do you pay? I don't know. Where's your list of network providers? I don't know. Is your doctor on it? I don't know. What's your maximum out-of-pocket a year? I don't know. Right? So you really don't know anything about your insurance, right? You might have wonderful insurance, mediocre insurance, or complete crap insurance. So when we talk about employee benefit planning, we're going to really try and up our game and be cognizant of the components of our plans. Same thing with a retirement plan. Just because your employer offers a 401k, does that mean it's a benefit to you at all? Why not? So you come to work for me and I'm like, welcome here at my company. I have a retirement plan. I have a 401k with American Funds. Is that exciting? Have I told her anything? What have I told her?
That she can invest money just like she could if she went anywhere.
Right, that she can put money into 401k through her work. Can she do that in any other modality if she didn't work for me?
Yes.
She could just open up a brokerage account and fund her own IRA. What she wants to ask me is, that's awesome. What's the match? How much do you match me? Right? For every buck she puts in, I'll put in 25 cents. Right? So that's what she wants to hear. And those all come in a plan document. Your health insurance is in a plan document. Your retirement program's in a plan document. And I know that I had a hard time getting my kids to do this when they were getting their first jobs out of college, but it really shows that you're an astute employee. Thank you very much. I'm super excited that I'm on your benefit plan. Can I please see the plan documents? Oh, well, yes, of course you can. And then they send it to their mother, and their mother reads the 80 pages and tells them what they have. But you're going to do it on your own. Okay, so we're going to be engaged in employee benefit planning. Tax planning, they say, starts generally in the late 20s. It depends upon where you're, everybody, this is exactly how it goes. But, yeah, very important. One of the big benefits that we'll learn a lot about saving for retirement through like a 401k or an IRA is you get to defer your taxes. What does that mean? What does defer mean?
It means you don't have to pay taxes on it until you realize the benefits of it.
And that's out here. That's out here. And guess what happens to my tax bracket when I retire? It goes down. So let me just back up. I've got a lot of puzzled looks. So as you make more money, obviously you get higher and higher tax brackets. And you're going to learn more about taxes than you ever wanted to know. In chapter 3, I think it is. So when you retire, obviously your tax bracket starts decreasing again, right? Because you're not making as much generally when you're retired as you do when you're earning. And so that money that I put away, that I deferred into my 401k or my IRA, I'm going to start to pull out and use to pay my bills when I retire. Now I'm going to be at a lower tax bracket. That's really, tax planning is really important. You convinced of that? There's no tax planning to do when you've got a job for $9 an hour and work 15 hours a week. So you're not missing the boat yet because you're students, but it is going to become really, really important. And then retirement and estate planning. Retirement being for your own needs, estate planning being what you want to pass on to your heirs or your charity or whatever it is that you decide you want to leave it to. So I just think this is a great chart. So here is just a shameless plug to start today. This is all math. The sooner you start an IRA, the better. If you start investing for retirement age 40 and put away $2,000 in a year, when you get ready to retire, you're going to have $95,000. Is that going to get you through retirement? No. If you start the same plan 10 years earlier, you're going to have almost double the money. Right? It's called compounding interest. And the longer time you have, the more exponentially your money grows. So, and it'll be a lot easier to illustrate when we get into the numbers, but just believe me when I say that even if you could even start putting away $40 a month now, at the back end when you're 65, that $40 a month, so what is that, $480 a year, could easily be over a couple years another 10 or 20 grand in your account because of the power of time. That $40 a month, if I start putting that away right now, isn't going to do squat for me because I have 5 years from retirement. But when you're young and you have that power of compounding interest and all that time, it is astounding what those numbers become. Same exact concept when you get your first car loan or you get your first mortgage. And you're like, you know what I'm going to do instead of going out for pizza on Friday night, although much less exciting? I'm going to take that extra $50 I paid on my mortgage. And we're going to look and do some what if analysis on Excel. You can carve years off of your mortgage by that. Right? And again, not super exciting. What did you do with your bonus? Oh, I paid it down on my mortgage. Right? Everyone else has the flash vacation or the new motorcycle. But you're like, I own my house by the time I'm 50. That works just fine because then I have financial freedom. And it actually doesn't take that much money. It just takes a commitment to doing it. And we're going to look at the numbers and hopefully you'll be convinced. So this is just a visual representation of what I just said. Again, this is how many years your money's in the bank, and this is what the investment grows to. This is $1,000 invested in one lump sum. Okay? Now I want to just give you a word to think about, and then I'll go back to this for 2 words. Lump sum, because we're going to be dealing with these concepts a lot. A lump sum is just one chunk of money. I'm going to take part of my tax refund and put $1,000 into my IRA. Which, by the way, I have a tax business, and my clients, they either hate me or love me, but I bug them incessantly, anybody that gets a refund, to commit at least a third of it to going into their IRA. And I can tell you how many people I've gotten to start IRAs. I'm like, just pretend that I didn't say you're getting $4,000 back. Pretend I said you're getting $2,300 back. And all of a sudden, they started an IRA, and then they do it every year. And now they cut 30, 40 grand. Feels really good. And then an annuity is different. An annuity is when you put in the same amount every month. $50 out of every paycheck. $100 the first of every month. Whatever. That's an annuity. Those are different ways to save, aren't they? That just steady workhorse approach every month, or the I get a big chunk of money, usually from a tax refund, and that's going on. I think you need a combination of both. This is a lump sum. And it's at what percentage point? A 6% rate of return. And you see after 10 years, it's $1,700. 20 years, it's $3,200. And then this is illustrating the difference in the rate of return. What does that mean to you, rate of return? Anybody know what that is? Have you heard the term?
It's getting added on to the principal.
It's your income. I'm earning 6%, I'm earning 10%, I'm earning 4%. Now, you should probably write this down because I'm going to call this a lot of different things. It has a lot of different names. It can be called rate of return, which it is here. What's your rate of return? 4%. It can be called your ROI, return on investment, capital R, capital O, capital I, ROI, return on investment, same thing. It can also be called yield. What's your yield? All interchangeable terms. ROI, rate of return, and yield. It's the percentage that you earn on your principal. Yeah, it's defined as the percentage you earn on your principal. Now, can anybody mathematically see why in the second year the power of compounding kicks in? So I've got $1,000. I earned 6% the first year. How much is that? Do not get out your calculator. $6. $6. 60. Oh my God. Oh, you're killing me, Lise. I'm still not all the way back to school. Yeah, okay. $1,000, 6%, year one, $60. What happens in the second year that makes it greater than $60? Yes, you added the 60 to the $1,000 and calculated the 6% on it. So it's going to be something more. That's called compounding. And when that happens over and over and over and over and over, when you get up there in 35 and 40 years, you're earning money on your money, 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 right? And that's why the trajectory goes up so quickly. That's called compounding. So that's kind of part of this whole definition of yield and rate of return and ROI, is that this is your simple rate of return. I pay 4% on your account. But the actual yield gets more and more and more because your original principal is still only $1,000. You see the math behind that? We're going to dig into the real numbers, but do you understand conceptually what I'm talking about?
Okay, but like I know as your dollar also decays through,
Inflation.
Yeah. So would you have to reevaluate how much you're getting back?
Yes.
Okay.
Great question. So let me repeat the question and then put in my 2 cents answer on it. So Gabby's comment was like, okay, like, gosh, when my parents were, a young couple in the 40s and 50s and saving money, 4% was like an amazing rate of return, right? What's wrong with 4% now?
It's eaten away by inflation.
We know that inflation's running anywhere between 2.5% and 3.5% a year. So that's called a decline in your what? Purchasing power, right? Everything gets 2.5%, 3.5% more expensive. You're making the same, rate. So what happens, Gabby, which is completely correct, is you've got to constantly be evaluating your rate of return in relationship to your purchasing power decay. Okay, and we're going to talk about all these a whole bunch of times. Now, let me ask one more question and then we'll move on. Would you always just go for the 6% investment rather than the 4% investment? And what's the difference between the two? Why would everybody just be like, do I want $10,000 or $4,000?
Risk.
It's all risk. You don't get more return without taking more risk, right? I could put my whole retirement tonight, I could go home and transfer it into something that last year yielded 38%. Why wouldn't I do that? Why do I go home and look at my little boring 5.3% yield? And I already told you the answer, sorry.
Is it consistent with 5.2%?
It is, but would you put your money in a 5.3% investment?
No,
No, what's the difference between me and him?
age.
Yeah, I'm 5 years from retirement. I'm not taking any risk. I just want to get ahead of purchasing power decline. I don't even really need to make money. Well, I mean, that's not a true statement, of course. That sounded ridiculous. That's not what I meant at all. I'm more interested in preserving my principal than anything else at this stage of the game. I've planned well. I've done what I was saying. Did all the calculations. I saved what I was supposed to save, blah, blah, blah. Now I just don't want something to hit me sideways. So I'm taking almost no risk. A little bit of risk, but very calculated. Whereas when you're young, I mean, you've got 40 years in front of you before you retire or whatever. And so the market's going to do this, obviously. So if you've got the stomach for it, you got to have the stomach for it. You can't be a panicker. If you've got the stomach for it, why wouldn't you take risks when you're young? Right?
You can put your money in different, you can buy different investments.
Excellent point. So Ting Ting's point is you buy different kinds of investments. We're going to talk a lot about that. It's called diversification. You don't go and put all your money into one thing. And I don't mean just one company, I mean one area. Like U.S. stocks or European bonds or emerging market derivatives. You have a little tiny piece of all those. And those pieces shift over time with that chart from the time before and your age and your risk, your stomach for risk. During the crash in 2008, right after the crash, or during the crash, I was on a plane with a teacher, a school teacher, an elementary ed teacher, who had panicked and sold everything when the Dow was at like 7,500, which we now know was like 300 points from its low, right? If you're a panicker, then get a trustee for your for your account, because you've got to ride. And she was like how old I am now. Once you sell, you've locked in your loss, right?
What would you have done in her position? Just like-
Held on. You've got your. So correct me if I'm wrong. Where was the market at when it started to slide? Like 15,000.
So
14 or 15, and I think it landed at 7,200. So I mean, it basically people lost hundreds of billions of dollars. We all know that, right? You would have your lock-in point, and I mean, I've got mine posted right on my screen at home and my screen at work. When the S&P gets to X or the Dow gets to Y, I'm converting to cash. I know what my loss is. I've thought it out when I'm rational. But I'm not, when it starts that free fall slide, people just panic. But we know statistically what happens. Right? Cyclical. It's all cyclical. We know that. Just look back through the last 100 years of the market. The Great Recession that you guys all just lived through, was really, and the Great Depression, we've had lots of little mini, we had the dot-com bust, and we've had lots of little mini busts, but those huge corrections, there's only been 2 of them in the last 100 years. The only real bummer is if you're set to retire right in the middle of one. But really, I mean, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but if you can continue to earn your income for a couple more years and ride it out, it will come back up and you will retire. And then they tell you to start converting to cash in the years up to retirement. That's why your yield gets lower, because you're not in active investments anymore, you're just moving it into cash. So we do a little bit of that every year as we get closer. But you're not going to have much in cash at all when you're young, because why would you? You want it to be working. Do you have a question?
So, I know that, I don't know if there's any type of contract with an employer where you could say as money decays, if they're a promise to.
You're never going to get that out of an employer. You can try. So her question is, what do I do with my income stream as purchasing power declines? And you can build into an employment negotiation. Yeah, I want to get a cost of living increase. Sure, why not? If you find somebody that does that, let me know. Okay. this is really reiterating a lot of things we've talked about, managing two incomes, now you're merging two attitudes, two styles, managing benefits. This is worth I'm going to come back to that. I started talking about that. I want to fill that in a little bit. Managing finances in tough economic times, that's why I'm going to just like hammer home on building a savings for an emergency savings, which is not your long-term investment, it's not your retirement plan, it's a whole nother pot of money. Anybody know what they tell you should have? Yeah, so they say 9 months, that's just crazy. 6 months of living expenses, right? So whatever that looks like for you. I spend $1,200 a month, or I spend $5,000 a month, times 6. Okay, I will be perfectly honest that we never did that. We never came close to that. We just never came close to that. But it's a goal, and financial planners will always tell you that should be your emergency goal. If you have access to equity in something, that can replace it. And that's what we chose to do, was to rely on equity in our house for an emergency if we needed it. But you've got to have equity in the house. And that comes because you pay your mortgage off fast.
Yeah, because I always heard like 6 months.
They talk 6 to 9 months.
No.
6 to 9 months, I'll tell you. And then obviously other major life changes. The one thing I wanted to go back and talk about the benefits real quick. So does everybody know what a flex benefit is in an HSA? Okay, these are both tools. So a flex plan is only offered through an employer, and it allows you, I'm going to use that word defer again, to defer part of your paycheck into an account called a flex plan, and then you take money out of that account and pay your daycare and your health care bills pre-tax. Sure. It sounds complicated, but it's not. So let's say that I've got a kiddo in daycare, and I know it's $2,500 a year. Would I rather pay that $2,500 a year out of my net paycheck or out of my gross paycheck before any taxes were taken out? Obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that $2,500, I'm going to divide it by 12, and get whatever that is, $216 a month, and they're going to take that right out of the top of my paycheck and put it in another account, and then calculate taxes on what's left.
Is it only for healthcare and childcare?
Healthcare, childcare is the only. But healthcare is really broad. It's my eyes, my teeth, my meds, my counseling, my
Massage is covered under some.
Massage. You tell. I didn't realize that.
A lot of people, well, I'm a massage therapist. I don't know the person, but a lot of people will use their flex plan.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But it's very
gosh.
specific. It's very specific. Like they have to make it.
I didn't get that memo. Okay, so you take that money and you put it in another account, and then when you pay a medical bill, you submit it and get the money out pre-tax. It's one more layer of money management, because your checks go down that $216 a month, right? But it's for things that you know you're going to have. Like, I know I'm putting braces on my kid. I know I've got a $2,500 daycare bill. What you don't want to do is put a bunch of money into your flex account that you may or may not use, because guess what happens at the end of the year? It goes away. It goes away. It's a use it or lose it. So you don't want to muck around with it. You want to know, like, oh my gosh, I'm putting braces on my kid. Or are you going to ask who gets it?
Yeah.
The administrator.
Really?
And in Missoula, our primary administrator is Allegiance Benefit Management. Oh, she is? Okay. And they do a fabulous job of it.
And her husband works in flex, so it's all
Yeah. We do, I'm not going to go through the math in here, but we do a couple examples in my accounting classes, and you can save, the government can supplement 40% of your daycare just by using a flex.
So for the amount that goes into your flex is based on like your health insurance?
It's based upon whatever you choose. The maximum I believe you can put in, it goes up every year. I think this year it just went up to like $2,550. It's some weird number. So if you think, like if you know, say that you have medication that costs you $300 a month.
Yeah.
You know you're going to hit $2,550. You would elect the maximum.
Okay.
Or maybe you're you and you're like, oh, I go have an annual exam and I get my teeth cleaned and, blah, 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 and, whatever. Maybe I have $300 a year of health care, then you're going to choose $300. But you're not going to bet on the come and go, well, maybe this year I'm going to have, get glasses and I'm going to choose $1,000, because if you don't spend that other $700, it just goes poof.
And you have a year to do that?
You have 1 year to do it.
Okay.
So a lot of people will do, like you always get a reminder from your FlexCare provider, like in early November, like you have $600 left. And then it's like, oh, I'm going to go get my husband's contacts filled for a year. And I'm going to go, da-da-da-da-da.
So you can only adjust them yearly, or is it?
Once a year.
Okay.
Other than if you have what's called a qualifying event, divorce, death, loss of job, really big stuff, you can change your flex. But you have to prove it. They're really stringent. And then just quickly, how many are we in here? Because I have 320. Okay. All right. An HSA works kind of like a flex. Personal financial planners, these are people that you go to that help you. They're called CFPs, Certified Financial Planners. So it's like, I'm a CPA, everyone recognizes that as accreditation for accountants. A CFP is an accreditation for a financial planner. But I will tell you one thing, personal experience doesn't describe everybody, just personal experience. Make sure they're on your team and not their team, because they make more commission on certain products that may or may not be appropriate for you, or may or may not be aligned with your risk profile. Just make sure that you're on the same page.
Like they're a car salesman.
Just make sure you're on the same page. And we have tons of friends that do this, and there's lots of people with lots of integrity. But if I look at you and I don't know you from a hole in the wall, and I can sell you one thing that's going to earn me 9% commission, and I can sell you something else that's going to earn me 2%, what am I going to push? Okay. So, and then this last just couple slides, and then I'm gonna take us to Excel, so that because just lecturing for 90 minutes is a lot. There's so many other things going around in the planning environment. So all the best laid plans. I mean, we elect a new president, or we potentially elect a new president and change our Senate and our House every 4 years, right? And that's not even talking about the whole world out there, not to mention the state and the local. So like what's going on with government matters. Business, consumers, financial planning doesn't happen in a vacuum. Okay, let's do this. Let me shut this down. Can you guys get on Excel while I'm saving this, please?